Hello everyone, Kofi Comics here. Welcome back to the channel. I just want to elaborate more about my last video, and I thank everyone who actually watched it. In the last video I was discussing about how the Western world has become too Japanese. On YouTube we're seeing a lot of indie comic guys creating all these mangas. And I was saying before how there isn't a problem creating a manga. The problem is that what we're seeing is the Japanese culture influencing too much of the Western world. You don't go to Japan and see our culture influencing them. What they did is exactly what everyone should be doing, is that they take snippets from the Western world or from another culture and then they turn it into their own. If you watch an anime and a manga in today's society, I can promise you will hardly ever see any of our culture in their storylines. In fact, probably 99.9% of every manga and anime is just pure Japanese culture. And it makes sense because they fully understand what it takes for their stories to become unique and enjoyable, because they understand who they are. They fully accept who they are as someone who lives in Japan, born and raised in Japan. Their culture defines or shapes their comic books. And what annoys me is that a lot of times, especially with the new generation of indie comic creators, they're creating all these mangas where, as nice as the art style looks, it's not exactly demonstrating who they really are. What you're really seeing is them paying tribute to something that they really like. I'm not saying, that manga is not enjoyable, because it is. The anime and the manga is amazing to look at. And I can understand when people are influenced by something that they like. They want to show their appreciation, and so they create something according to what they've enjoyed. So most of the time when you see anyone making a manga, for me personally, I don't really like it. Not because I don't like how they've drawn the pictures. It's more on the basis of all they've really done is just taken another culture of their art style, copy and pasted it onto the work that they've created. They've copy and pasted the work. So here's an example. You take Jim Lee, an amazing artist for DC. Everybody knows who Jim Lee is in the comic world space. If you don't, you're a bit of an idiot. But everyone knows who Jim Lee is. Now, if someone like myself who truly enjoys Jim Lee's art in every way, shape or form, and I began to copy his art style, would you say, oh, this is a really good picture done by Kofi Comics? No, what you would say is, this is an art style that looks similar to Jim Lee's. In fact, it looks so similar, it just looks like a copy and paste. And it makes sense, because really and truly, all I'm really doing is showing my appreciation to Jim Lee by having to copy his art style. So it's more of a paying a tribute than it is me creating my own story in my own art style. I'm sure anyone that wishes to see someone's product, whether it be an anime, cartoon, or a manga, or a comic book, the one thing that people are looking for is the unique art style. Because you want to enjoy what you're reading by looking at the pictures and then being amazed by what's been created. Again, I know you can enjoy someone's art style just by whether it is a manga or a comic book. But at the same time, while you're enjoying the art, are you really seeing who the person is? Or are you just seeing someone who's paid tribute to someone else's work or someone else's style? And that's where I have the problem. We're so talented in what we do, but yet we're so scared in having to create our own form of style. Not for all, just for some. But let's take someone like White Manga. I think he's an amazing artist. Absolutely brilliant. I love his work. I love the fact that I love his dedication. I love the fact that he's created 5 books. I love the fact that, he's found something that he enjoys and he's really pushing forward for it. The only thing I don't really like about what he's done is that he's just created a manga or should I say, what I don't really like is that he's created a comic book using the manga style. I would have loved to have seen someone as talented as him create a comic book in his own unique art style that doesn't resemble manga. It is possible for him to create something different and not make it look like a manga. Now, I'm not saying he has to do it. I'm not saying that at all. It's just everybody wants to be unique. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants people to enjoy what they've done. Would you rather enjoy someone who's just copy and pasted someone else's work? Or would you rather enjoy their work that's different from everybody else? I know people think, oh, but manga is so popular, it can be done in anything. Manga is just not for the Japanese. I get that, I understand. But what I'm trying to get at is that why hasn't the Japanese just copy and pasted Western comics? Their art style. Why didn't they just copy Marvel? Why didn't they just copy DC? Why have they gone into this road where they've created their own personal art style that's part of their own culture? It's not that hard to create your own art style. For an example, look at DC. Look at the cartoons, the animations that they created. Teen Titans. It resembles manga. It has some elements of manga, but you wouldn't call it a manga, would you? You would call it a cartoon, because DC made it very clear. Teen Titans, the first one, not the second one. The first one is a cartoon, because that's how they want everyone to recognize it as. They gave it the title of a Western word, cartoon, not anime. They call it a cartoon. It's the same thing with Young Justice. It has manga-ish elements, but people can easily see it's not a manga. You can see what they've done is that they've taken the Western way of how they create cartoons and taken elements from the manga, and they've put the two together, but it mainly represents the Western culture. So you've noticed in Young Justice that the manga side is that they've simplified the drawings, they've simplified the animations, they've simplified the way the character looks. You can see from the Western part how they've designed the character, how they designed the backgrounds, the storyline, the movement, the mannerisms. All that is part of the Western culture, because that's how comic books in the Western world are done. And it looks amazing, but yet you can tell they have taken elements from the Japanese culture. It's the same thing that we're supposed to do. We do the exact same thing. We are meant to take things that we're inspired by, and then knowing what we already know of ourselves and of our culture, we then put the two together and create something new. It seems to be, now mistake me if I'm wrong, I don't care about being mistaken, we don't seem to enjoy our own culture anymore. Or we think we don't really have a culture. I'm British. I'm from London. I'm not trying to create a manga. I'm trying to create a British comic book. In fact, all my motion comics that I create are going to be called UK comics. I'm not going to be making a comic book from America. I'm not going to create a manga from Japan. I'm going to create a British comic book, but I'm mixing it with my culture of being a Christian as well. So I'm putting the two together. And then Bob's your uncle. I've got my motion comic book. The fact that people are just creating comic books, I'm surprised no one is even trying to go down the route of creating a motion comic book. How different is that? Because it's hardly been done, and when it is done, it's done in such a way where they just cut out pieces of the actual comic book, and then they try and add some animation. We should be trying to elevate into new heights. We're a new generation of indie comic creators. I mean, I would love to see someone else also do a motion comic book, because I think it's just hardly been done. I think it's just nice to see a unique way of having to display a comic book. And I personally was inspired by the Dead Space comic, because I thought it was so good. It looked so amazing. It looked so inspirational that I just decided from that moment, yes, that's exactly what I want to create. I want to create a motion comic book and mix it with my Christian culture, because being a Christian is my lifestyle. So it works both ways in terms of people having to see that you can create something with your own culture and make it look good. I urge everyone to watch my UK motion comic book called Shape. I've got episodes 1 to 4 on my channel right now as we speak, and I'm putting 5 together. Check it out, see what it's like. Make a comment. I don't care if it's good or bad. What I want you to do is just to see the uniqueness of what I've created, and make your judgment in the comment section of what you think about it. Because it's not only about what I've created. What I'm trying to show, that within my story called Shape, I'm trying to show that everyone is able to create something unique. If people are able to create something that is unique with their natural giftings, with their natural skills, what you're seeing is the person that you are supposed to develop into. Because my whole argument has always been, we live in a world where a lot of people today don't know who they are, and they use other cultures to try and find out who they really are. Really and truly, wherever you live is part of who you are. I understand we can be inspired by other cultures, and that's true. And I can understand why people would want to create mangas. I do get it. But aren't you a little tired of having to see the same thing over and over and over again? Like, for instance, here's an example. I just watched Jujutsu Kaisen, and I thought, yeah, it looks good. But my God, was I bored. Why was I bored? Because again, it's the same old shonen stuff. A boy who's so inspired to become someone and have lots and lots of friends. Has some kind of demonic power, either he's born with or it was, somehow bestowed on him. And he's got 2 other friends, 1 boy, 1 girl, one who looks like Sasuke, one that reminds you of Sakura, and he's the narrator of the character. And then his whole purpose of the story is to have many, many friends so that when he dies, people remember him. Again, apart from the whole dying part, what is it? It's again, I wanna have as many friends as possible. The same old storyline. It's just the same old stuff. And it keeps repeating itself. And people keep falling for the trap. I just thought, oh God. Literally the moment I saw Jujutsu Kaisen, finally, because people kept raving about how good it was, and it's on Netflix now. So I started watching it, and I just thought, I am not enjoying this. I'm really not enjoying it. I just don't see the hype of watching another Naruto, or like Black Clover. Oh God. What rubbish. What absolute rubbish. Literally just coming after watching the Naruto and finishing the storyline, Naruto Shippuden and all that. Black Clover then comes out, and you think to yourself, okay, this is going to be, different. No, it's the exact same thing as Naruto, just with an idiot screaming in the first couple of episodes. But it's literally the same tropes, the same ideas, the same shonen rubbish. I just thought, this is absolute rubbish. I can't believe this is what we're falling for. But then the other cartoons and the other animes and mangas, they're all doing the same thing, repeating it because they know it works, because people keep buying into it. So there's nothing unique about it. The 80s, I don't care what anyone says, the 80s was the best time for music because you had such unique voices, such unique songs, such unique people that you were able to distinguish voices from a simple song hearing on the radio. You knew who it was. Or even the 90s hip hop artists. You could recognize on the radio who Biggie is, who Tupac is, Method Man, Redman, DMX, Jay-Z, Nas, Eminem, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre. You could recognize those voices easily because they had such distinguished voices. And what made them so good at what they did, not only just the beats and the songs and the lyrics, but their unique voice. Because you could recognize it, and it was a sound you never heard before, and you just wanted to hear more and more and more of it. And that's exactly what I'm trying to say with comic books today. How unique is your story? How unique is your art style? Especially your art style. Because to be honest, If it looks like a manga, and you know when it looks like a manga just by looking at one particular aspect of your art style, the eyes. If you're demonstrating those manga eyes, then you know all you've done is just copy and pasted another manga. And it's just not unique. Now, don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. You might think what I've created is what I believe I should be doing. Fine, fair enough. Who am I? I'm not no one special. All I'm saying is I've just learned to recognize that in today's society, it's hard to see the uniqueness in today's generation because it feels like people are scared of their own culture, of their own self. And they're scared of their own abilities, that they think unless I can make it look like something that people are familiar with, then I know people will be interested in it. Instead of having to use my own unique skill in creating my own art style, which I'm fearful of because I don't believe anyone will be interested in it. I don't think we should be so scared in having to try and be different, trying to be unique, when we recognize we don't need someone else's culture in order to be unique or to stand out. Standing out is about being unique, is about being different. And as a Christian, I know people don't want to hear this, but as a Christian, every Christian believes that every person, every individual person on this earth is created by God and is given unique natural giftings. And through your culture that you're living in, through the things that you enjoy, through the things that you don't enjoy, through the things that you're inspired by, God believes you can use those things to create something unique, that you don't have to copy and paste someone else's work. It is possible for you to be inspired by manga, but create something different. Because then if you can recognize that and you start to put that into practice, I'm sure you'll start to see your own unique art style, and people will start to migrate to it because they can see this is something different. It's something new. It's something fresh. It's something God-given.